everybody, my name's Brenda Fay, and this is another session of the Deeper Mysteries Occult History Study Series with the continued emphasis on the Celtic tree mysteries and the Oghams. This is a part of the intermediate series on the different mnemonic devices and diagrams and learning charts for understanding the deeper mysteries of the Oghams. In our beginning series, when we went over the basics of the alphabet, but now I want to show you a little bit more of the deeper mysteries within that. This diagram that we're looking at here is called Fion's Window, or sometimes people call it Finn's Window. It is from a picture that was found in a manuscript of an ancient book from the medieval times called the Book of the Ballymote that has mostly Latin and Greek and Gaelic and no English, so when we actually got a copy of it once upon a time, that it was really hard to read. There was nothing we could recognize in it in the whole thing except for this picture, which we'd seen in some modern pagan history books about the Oghams. And when we were clever, my mom and I, when doing bibliographic research and the back of the books that were showing us where they got their resources from, the common denominator was this book called the Book of the Ballymote, and we got it from the interlibrary loan system through my college when I was still in college, and we had Portland State talk to Trinity University in Dublin, Ireland, and we actually got copies of that manuscript that was from Victorian era time, early lithographic printing, and it was quite awesome. And the book was about this big, actually. It was quite huge, but we couldn't read anything in it, but we did recognize this image. So this is a picture of the Oghams in a diagram representing the different realms and the different realms of existence in between the planes. There's going to be another talk with a different map system of this, but blown up into a different shape of 3D that I'm going to go into in another video to talk about where each places it takes you to in the different realms. But to start, let's just talk about this as itself as a mandala and a meditation piece and a mnemonic device to help you learn about the Oghams. So as we talked about before, the Oghams have a counting system of 1 through 5 on one side, and then we'll switch to the next side. Like over here, we can remind ourselves, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as it counts up. Now in this system, this has it grouped with all the ones together, ones, 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 and then it goes through all the twos, 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 and then the threes, and then the fours, and then the fives in the center. And this is both clumped by the direction, each of the elements, north, east, south, west, each have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each of the counting systems this way, or you can count them all the ones around this way. So it's a double counting method. You can count them by their group that they all grow in, all the ones to the right hand side, all the ones that are on the left hand side. Also, it looks kind of orientation funny because where the circle works around at an angle, all the angle hashes, all the straight across hashes, and the extras that we've talked about in past videos being the bonus rounds. They're all laid out like that. Some people refer to this as the 5 directions of the northeast, southwest, and spirit, but I also like looking at it this way easier, northeast, southwest, and spirit in the center. When we look at each of these realms and each of these rings, all of the ones relate to everything that is on the plane, the underworld, the lower realm of the realms of the Fae beneath us, and each of the 4 directions. And then when we move into the 2 rings, that is the bridge in between the lower realms and the middle realm. And the 3rd ring is everything that relates to the middle earth where we live, the northeast, south, and west of the middle realms. And then when we get to the 4th ring, this has to deal with the bridge between the middle realm and the above realms. And then the 5th ring is the above realms, or what's known as the upper world. And we can see that this corresponding over here, 1 in the north, 1 on the bottom, with 1 on the right. This is birch. And then 1 on the other side to the left is the one in the east. And then the one, and also that looks like it's on the right, but really if this was a circle facing your orientation, that's actually the left. I don't know how it looks on your guys' side of the video, but just for a little clarity. Then we have the diagonal. 1 is Muin, M for Muin. And then the one straight across is A for alum, silver firs. And then making it into the 2nd ring, starting again with on the one side, 2 is L for Luis. The next one over here is here, D for Dior. And this one down below, 2 in the south, corresponds to the 3rd group, which is G for Gort. And 2 that's flat, that is the vowels, and that is O for on, for firs, and this relates to spring. If you're seeing this trend, you can see that this group is the north. This group is the east. This group works around and it comes back around. So for each of them, hopefully this is making some kind of sense to you guys as we follow the pattern more. On to the 3rd realm, the 3s, starting in the north, is Fionn. Unless you're doing the alternate counting system of the lunar months, but that we're not looking at that count this time. We're looking at the full count. So this is 3rd is Fionn. And then on to the east, we have 1, 2, 3 up is T for Tyne. And then the next one over, the hash marks at the angle, 1, 2, 3 up, NG, Negtal, which is reed. And then over here in the west, which is onto the vowels, 1, 2, 3 up, is U for Ura, which is heather. And then moving on to the 4 realms, 4 in the 1st group is Sale, which is willow. Next, 4 over here correlates to 4 over here, which is C for coal, which is hazel. And then we have 4 in the south at the angle, 1, 2, 3, 4 is Z or ST for strafe or blackthorn. That's here. And then moving back around to here. This is here, 1, 2, 3, 4 in vowel land. That is Iadha or aspen. That's for E. And that is for the fall equinox. And then we move to the 5th ring. 5 in the 1st group is neon, which is ash. And then 5 over here corresponds to 5 over here, which is Q for quart, which is apple. And then 5 at the angle, which relates to this group here, which is R for Ruiz, which is elder. And then 5 in the vowels is I, which is Idaho, which is U, which is for the winter solstice at the end of the year. So this is just counting around this way, all the 1s and then all the 2s. Or if you wanted to, you could count this way, go 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, 4 here, 5 here, and then move on over to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can count it either way as you fancy. There's no wrong order on this. These are just different ways to make different learning pairings. So hopefully this has gained some clarity. Why this is important particularly is this is one of the oldest records that was still existing of all the old texts. Because as I've said before in these other videos, all of this was oral language before it was written down. When it was begun to be written down was in the medieval times by the monks with their illuminated manuscripts. Some of them started as early as the Dark Ages. Some of them went into almost Renaissance times, depending on when you caught it in the evolution of their writings. But a lot of the records were lost or destroyed or didn't make it for whatever reasons. So the earliest copy that we have known in written form started in, I do believe, the 7th century, but then it was finished by the 12th century. But the existing copy that is the oldest, earliest one comes from 1390 in the Book of the Ballymote. And that's why this, which is a recognizable symbol within that book, has been referred to by many, many, many authors who have later come along and done research in both medieval times, then later in Renaissance times, and then in the Enlightenment, and in Victorian times, and modern pagan scholars in the 20th centuries. They all keep coming back to this map particularly. So that's why I wanted to have a particular class on this one about what it is, how you use it, and what it's for. And mostly, like I said, it's a device to understand the cosmology of the realms, as also the counting system and how you want to count it into groups based on whether it's the number of hashes that you count it by or by the directions, however you want to go through the order or the rings of existences. And this particular art was worked on by a friend of mine named Trevor, who has a business on Etsy of making all sorts of fantastic carved wooden magical emblems. If you're interested, I do believe it's called Upwood Crafts on Etsy, I do believe. And if you're interested, you can always send me a message about that and I can give you greater references. And thank you very much for tuning into this lesson. If you are into wanting to get more of these lessons, push the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything, just lets you know when more things come out in your notifications. It'll tell you when there's a new video. And go ahead and share this with your favorite media to your friends and family. And thanks for tuning in for another Tree Mysteries Ogham lesson on the Deeper Mysteries. Thanks, guys, and we'll have more to come in the future.